Okay, so I just did a video going over how I think Minecraft potions are underrated as, tools for combat and, just exploration in general. And I thought, I might as well do a double feature, a double upload, something that I don't think I've ever done, maybe. So yeah, I figured that since I'm talking about potions anyway, I might as well do another tier list. These videos are always fun to make. What up YouTube, it's Luca, and we're gonna rank the Minecraft potions now. Alright, so how should we go about this? I think I should probably do the best and the worst potions first, the extremes. And then we'll just kind of, go over the average ones as we go along. You're probably here to see what potions I rank as the best and the worst. So let's start with the best to get this video off on a positive note. So the S tier, I think there are two potions in Minecraft that in terms of usefulness stand head and shoulders above all others. So the two best potions, by far the most splashable ones, I think are the potions of healing, which I think is probably the best potion in the game. And the other potion I think belongs in the S tier is the potion of fire resistance. I think these are, for me, pretty convincingly the best potions in the game. Healing, of course, because it has such an incredible effect. There's nothing in Minecraft that instantaneously recovers your health. You can eat, but that only recovers some health points gradually. And yeah, I guess you have the totem of Undying, which instantly gives you a burst of health upon, taking a hit that would otherwise kill you. But yeah, the potion of healing is just so much easier to get. And then the potion of fire resistance is just, it's just splashable. When you're in the nether, mostly, you're going to be using this. And, because the nether is such a dangerous place, a lot of people do opt to use this thing. And yeah, it's kind of integral to surviving, or at least, being more prepared to visiting an entire biome, which is something that none of these other potions really can replicate. So I think these two are by far the most useful potions in the game, and they're the only two in the S tier. Now let's cover the D tier, the worst potions, which are also two of them. First up, we have what I think is probably the worst potion in the game. That's actually going to be the potion of leaping. I think, I also made a joke in the intro of my video talking about how potions are underrated, about how potions of leaping are the only potion that is actually genuinely useless. I did like a bit, which went on for far too long, but it got the point across, I think. So yeah, why is the potion of leaping bad? Well, first of all, it's very difficult to actually make, because you have to get a rabbit's foot, which I think is somewhat of a rare drop from the rabbits, and also, catching the rabbits and killing them is also, not the easiest thing in the world. They're quite fast and maneuverable. And another reason why I think this one is the worst is because the effect also just genuinely sucks. I think I went over it in my, what was the video called? My top 5 most forgettable features in Minecraft, where I also discussed the potion of leaping and the rabbit's foot. But with jump boost 1, which is what the standard potion of leaping gives, you can't even jump 2 blocks. You need like a potion of leaping 2 to jump up 2 blocks, which kind of just makes the base version useless, in my opinion. And also, I always thought that this potion also made you immune to taking fall damage, but as I discovered in that video, it actually doesn't. It doesn't grant you any, immunity to fall damage at all, which is kind of weird for a potion that, lets you jump higher, to not give you at least some resistance to fall damage. So yeah, because of all of those reasons, the potion of leaping is, I think, the worst one in the game. There is one other potion in D tier that I think is also nearly useless, or at least it's not really that useful, and that's going to be the potion of slowness. Yeah, I can't really think of a use case for this thing. It slows things down, which, first of all, that basically, requires it to be a splash potion or a lingering potion, which is more effort. But also, slowing things down isn't really that useful of an effect. Yeah, I mean, you'd rather just do damage to stuff instead of slowing them down. It's just, the use cases for this potion. I can't really think of anything. It's just, like I said, nearly useless. Not as useless as the Potion of Leaping, because I guess it does have some merits in combat if you want to get away or something. But, still, that's a whole lot of effort for what is basically just an escape plan. And it's not guaranteed to work because the effect is not that strong unless you go to the lengths of like leveling it up to level 2. But the downside to that is that the level 2 effect lasts much shorter. So, there's also that trade-off of what do you want? Your enemies to be slowed down less, but for longer, or for them to be more slowed down for less long. Yeah, those are the two potions in the D tier, the only ones that are nearly useless. But yeah, now let's figure out everything in between. Let's cover the A tier first, so let's see. What potions do I think are worthy of being in the A tier? I think the Potion of Invisibility is probably high A tier, just outside the S tier. I mean, it just makes you invisible. And also, of course, in multiplayer, other people can see like the particle effects, unless they have, particles set to minimal, which I actually do have that, just because it makes the game a little bit less laggy. Yeah, but I mean, being able to go invisible and not be detected by any mobs that you come across from then on is still a pretty useful effect. And also, this potion is handy for getting the surprise attack on some players, As long as you don't stay in the same place for too long, the whole particle effects thing isn't that big of a deal. So yeah, I think the Potion of Invisibility is probably for me the third best potion in the game. Let's see, other potions that belong in the A tier. I think definitely the Potion of Night Vision belongs in the A tier. I believe I will have a section in my Potions Are Underrated video about how I often use night vision for mining. With the 1.18 update, caves got a lot bigger, and thus I found myself using these things often just to clear out the caves without bringing an absolute boatload of torches. I feel like this is one of the more usable potions in the game. Let's see. I think the Potion of the Turtle Master is honestly one of the most underrated potions as well. It slows you down by a lot, but it also gives you a huge amount of resistance, which, that's actually the only way that you can get resistance without, a beacon. It's the only potion that provides resistance. Oh yeah, that's something I also forgot to mention when I was talking about the Potion of Leaping. You can also just install a beacon with the jump boost effect, which, makes the potion even less useful. But anyway, back to the Potion of the Turtle Master. I think in combat, this thing is actually, underrated, like I said. It definitely has some merits to it of being able to just make you super tanky. The only downside is that you're basically immobile. Like, if you brew this up to the max level, yeah, you gain resistance 4, which in combination with netherite armor is probably insane. I mean, I have never experienced it, but you probably take 0 damage. But you're also not going anywhere until the potion has worn off. So yeah, that's definitely a trade-off. But, I think the upsides to this one are far better than, for example, something like the Potion of Slowness, where you have to decide between, the stronger effect or the longer duration. Yeah, people who do kill wardens pretty much always make use of this potion. With this thing you'll be able to go toe-to-toe with even the strongest foes. And I think because of that, it's definitely one of the better potions, because, of how useful it could be in combat. It's definitely still slightly situational, and it's pretty difficult to make. I believe you do need one of those, little turtle shell fragments to make it, or at least I can't imagine what else you would need to make it. But yeah, I could definitely see the usefulness inside this thing. And then I think water breathing probably also belongs in the A tier, but just because how useful it is for exploring ocean monuments and stuff like that. Ever since we got the big ocean update, you want to spend more time underwater. And with 1.20 you want to be, brushing the sand for sniffer eggs. So this thing has definitely gotten better over the decades. And yeah, I mean, there's not really too much to say about this one. It's just pretty useful. And yeah, putting, what was the enchantment again? Respiration on your helmet does kind of take some of the usefulness away from this potion, because with that enchantment at level 3, your oxygen drains much slower. And you of course have the conduit as well. Oh yeah, that's true. I hadn't considered conduit when I, thought about where I was going to place this thing. So that may actually bog it down to the B tier. Yeah, I think I'm going to do that for now. I was expecting to put this thing in the A tier, but I guess we'll see. Yeah, I hadn't considered conduit when I was, thinking about all the uses for this potion. But yeah, outside of that, there's not really much to say about the water breathing potion. It's just, situationally useful, which is better than, these guys down here. And I think the last potion I'm gonna put in A tier is gonna be the Potion of Weakness. For one use, and one use only, that you probably already know. Yeah, if you want to get, cheap enchanted books, this thing is a must. And in combat it's not useless. You can throw it at stuff to reduce your opponent's attack damage, which I guess that's kinda useful. But even so, I don't think it's something that a lot of people often make use of. But yeah, this thing is as high, basically just because of its use in curing zombie villagers. I mean, this is a tier list based on the potion's usefulness, after all. And that is a pretty big advantage for the Potion of Weakness specifically. But I think that's probably going to be all the potions in the A tier. So, let's go to the other side of the coin and discuss the C tier now. And I think the C tier is going to have 2 potions in it. And it's going to be 2 potions that are quite similar to each other. In fact, they almost do exactly the same thing. And in the C tier, it's going to be the Potion of Poison and the Potion of Decay. Now, some of you might not recognize the Potion of Decay. I'm sure I'm going to have a section about it in my Potions Are Underrated video as well. But the Potion of Decay is actually a potion that is exclusive to Minecraft Bedrock. And it's a potion that essentially gives you the Wither effect. Whoever's hit by it just gets the Wither effect for a little bit. So yeah, it's essentially almost the same thing as the Potion of Poison. And I think they're both, they can both be useful, but I think they're still on the lower end. Just because, something like the Potion of Harming, I think it's just straight up better. Because it can deal, one instantaneous load of damage instead of, the same damage over a little bit of time. I mean, don't get me wrong, I could definitely see people making a case for situations where poison or decay are better than harming. But I think as a whole, harming is just better, and there's not really many reasons to ever use these 2 over the Potion of Harming. So yeah, slightly underwhelming. Still not bad. Like I said, they're not in the D tier. They're not useless by any means. They can have their merits. And I'm actually kind of curious. What do you need to make a Potion of Decay? Like, you need netherwort, but what's the special ingredients associated with this thing? Oh, okay, that's interesting. So I thought you could just obtain this thing in survival. It is still Bedrock exclusive, but you actually can't brew it in Bedrock. I don't know if that means I should change its position on the tier list. I think I'm just gonna keep it like this, but that's definitely something to think about. I thought you could just brew this thing with like a wither skull or something ridiculous like that. But anyway, I think basically all of the remaining potions are gonna go in the B tier. I just have to figure out how to order them. I think the potion of strength is definitely the second best after water breathing. Being able to increase your damage output for, a little while, 8 to 3 minutes, is pretty good. And, with strength 2 and a netherite sword with sharpness 5, you can really do some insane damage. Yeah, it's a pretty good effect, but it's not higher up because it does kind of compete with the beacon effect. You can also give yourself strength through the beacon effect. So yeah, that does kind of bring this potion down, I feel like. But as it were, it's still a pretty, very useful effect. And speaking of useful effects, I think the potion of swiftness is gonna come right behind him. Yeah, I mean, swiftness, it's not as useful as strength, but it is still pretty useful, both, offensively in combat when you want to overwhelm your opponents with your moves, and defensively when you want to make a quick getaway. So yeah, it's definitely more niche, like I said, than the potion of strength. But going fast, that's still something that's pretty useful to have in like the Ender Dragon fight and the Wither. It's certainly not the first potion that comes to people's minds to bring to like those boss fights, but it can definitely be useful. And then potion of slow falling, I think, is also actually one of the most underrated potions. I always use it when I'm fighting the Ender Dragon, because as I'm sure I've already explained in my potions are underrated video, if you like tower up to the Ender crystals that are encased in like the iron bars, what I usually do is I just tower up to the top where the cage actually is, then mine like one iron bar out, put a block of TNT there and light it, and then I just drink a potion of slow falling and just casually float down while the TNT and the end crystal explode behind me. It's pretty effective, and it's minimal risk, and it's probably my favorite way of taking out those caged end crystals. But even beyond that, it does have some niche applications in your everyday survival, with you being able to survive drops from great height and actually being able to gain some distance from it. So yeah, I would say it's definitely underrated, though its usefulness, I'll admit, doesn't stretch too far. I think the potion of harming is gonna come right after that. Yeah, I mean, dealing damage is, I feel, not as good of a potion effect as healing yourself, because remember what I said with the potion of healing, that there is no other item that basically gives such a large burst of health as the potion of healing. Well, you do have something that can replace the potion of harming, which is just, your sword. In the time that you take to grab a potion of harming and like throw it, you can also just, slash your sword 1 or 2 times. And you have to space it properly, otherwise you could get hurt yourself. So this one is definitely not as splashable as the potion of healing. It's better, it is better than a sword for like trapping and stuff, since it does more damage than a dispenser with an arrow or something. You're better off just putting potions of harming into dispensers if you want to do a lot of damage real quick. But yeah, and also it's not usable against undead mobs, which is kind of a bummer. With a potion of healing, it's not that big of a deal that you can't use it against everything that's still alive, basically. Yeah, that's not that big of a deal because you're rarely going to be throwing this thing. Most people, I feel like, would just bring, the normal version that you see here, that you drink, instead of the one that you can just throw down. So yeah, I feel like with the healing, that isn't too big of an issue. But with harming, it kind of does hurt that you can't use it against the most standard enemies in the game, being zombies, skeletons, stuff like that. So yeah, harming, not as useful, but still solid, I feel like. And then lastly, the worst of the B tier, I think, is regeneration. I think this thing is just wholly outclassed by the potion of healing. And that's basically all there is to say. It's basically a knockoff version of the potion of healing. The potion of regeneration is basically to the potion of healing what the potion of poison is to the potion of harming. You know, it's better to gain a burst of health instantaneously than to gain it over a longer period of time, which is why I feel like it's just worse than the potion of healing. I don't really have much more to say about it. You also have the potion of luck and the uncraftable potion, which are potions which are in the game. You know, the potion of luck is you can get in creative mode, but you can brew it in survival mode. Similar to the potion of decay, as it turns out, but it has a more obscure effect. And then the uncraftable potion, I don't remember what the lore behind this thing is. I think it's maybe in the game files, you can obtain it with commands. But I don't think this thing really does anything. The potion of luck does give you an increase in your luck stat, though I don't really know what that does, if anything. Okay, so I never really knew what the luck status effect did, but apparently it just gives you better loot from certain loot tables. I don't really know what that means. That probably applies to like fishing and stuff. Yeah, I don't really know what else that would apply to. So hypothetically, if I were to rank that, if it only applies to fishing, I would probably put it in the C tier or maybe at the low end of B tier. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna put it at the low end of B tier with, you know, assuming that it only applies to fishing. I mean, I don't really know what other activity just gives you, you know, items on the go. You know, like the chests in dungeons and stuff, I think those are just predetermined. And there's no way to actually, you know, change those once the world has been like created. So fishing is kind of the only thing I can think of that this would apply to. And that will make it not too useful, a little underwhelming, but still, you know, not useless by any means. So yeah, I think this is gonna be my final tier list of all the potions in the game. Tell me what your favorite potion is in the comments below to maybe engage in some discussion. Where would you place certain potions that I have placed somewhere completely different? And yeah, I think I'm just gonna end the video here. Make sure you check out that other video about how potions are underrated if you haven't yet. I'll put a link to it in the iCard, or maybe I already have. I might have done it in the intro, I can't remember. Anyway, if you want more tier lists like this, then also make sure to show that support in whatever way you deem fit, whether by liking, subscribing, commenting. I don't really care, as long as it makes you happy. And yeah, I'm gonna go now. I don't want to make this video too long. So yeah, goodbye everyone.